renewed series of droughts and food shortages in the 1980s and early 90s has focused world attention once again on the plight of sub-Saharan Africa. Climate changes, rapidly increasing human populations, and expanding herds of livestock have all contributed to one of the central problems, the widespread and growing menace of land degradation. Over 3/4 of Africa's people depend directly on the land, growing crops and herding livestock. When the land loses its ability to sustain life, the rural poor lose their productive base. Soil erosion is one of the most important elements of land degradation. Eroded soil loses its fertility and is less able to hold moisture. Land becomes denuded of vegetation. Gully networks develop. The warning signs had been there for a long time, but the droughts of the 1980s underlined the urgency of the situation. The International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, responded to the crisis in sub-Saharan Africa by launching a special program. The central objective of the Special Program for Africa is to help farmers develop sustainable land use systems which are more resilient to environmental stress. One means of achieving this is through programs with a strong soil and water conservation component. But there's been a long history of failed soil and water conservation efforts in Africa. So a study was first undertaken to identify what had gone wrong previously and how the new initiatives could be better targeted at the rural poor. The study highlighted 3 main areas of concern. First, most projects had adopted a top-down management approach. Technical solutions had been imposed on the farmers. Often there was excessive reliance on machinery to construct terrace banks and diversion ditches. But projects ended, machines broke down, and the structures built at considerable cost were usually not maintained. The lesson is that farmers must be involved in decision-making. Second, no one had taken the time to learn from the farmers themselves. Traditional soil and water conservation techniques, such as these simple stone lines, are widespread in Africa, yet have been systematically ignored. Why could these techniques not be used as a starting point? Third, little consideration had been given to adoption of conservation systems by farmers. Technical solutions differ from area to area, but for any system to be replicable, it must be simple, cost-effective, and within the means of the farmers themselves. And it must be linked to increased plant productivity. Farmers respond to simple techniques which ensure better harvests while providing soil and water conservation. These lessons were used to formulate a new approach to soil and water conservation. And experience would provide further lessons as the program was put into practice. The first phase of the Special Program for Africa was launched in 1986. 24 countries were eligible for assistance. Amongst those with soil and water conservation programs are Burkina Faso, Lesotho and Niger. First, Burkina Faso in the West African Sahel. Burkina Faso is one of the lowest income countries in Africa. The population is almost entirely dependent on the land. On the densely populated Central Plateau, people face acute problems of land degradation. Over the last few decades, increasing numbers of fields have been abandoned, and many villagers have been forced to seek seasonal work elsewhere, or simply to migrate out of the area altogether. Although annual rainfall is low, showers are often intense. The bare soil surface is bombarded by raindrops. Runoff causes precious moisture to be lost. Soil fertility is eroded at the same time. Reduced vegetation means that the soil's protective cover decreases, and a spiral of degradation is established. Jean-Martin Cambire, the programme's director, explains.
Les principaux objectifs du programme spécial de conservation des eaux et des sols et d'agroforesterie.
The main aim of the special program for soil and water conservation and agroforestry is to restore the productive potential of the Central Plateau by fighting erosion. We achieve this by building stone barriers and by planting trees.
La réalisation de sites anti-érosifs en pierre comme en terre, et également accompagné d'actions de reboisement.
Ribu is one of 150 villages which have received assistance from the programme. Here, the technique of stone bunding has been perfected. Lessons were learned from the experience of farmers and other projects. Organised groups of villagers come together to collect stone from open land. Women and young people, as well as men, take part. The stones are dug up from the earth and then loaded into a tipper truck provided by the programme. The truck then takes the load to the field to be treated. Construction begins with large stones being carefully placed in a foundation trench, which is sited along the contour. These stones form the framework of the bund. Smaller stones are then positioned alongside. Stone bunds slow down the runoff, but are semi-permeable, allowing excess water to pass through. The runoff water, which would have otherwise caused erosion, sinks into the ground, providing the crop with extra moisture and replenishing the water table. Silt and organic matter are trapped in the process, building up the soil's fertility. This technique is a simple and effective form of water harvesting. Using this method, degraded land has been brought back into production. And where existing fields have been improved, yields of sorghum have increased by around 40%. Benefits are shared by both men and women. Bruno Kougwindiga explains how the system has helped him.
In the beginning, I could not make stone bunds on all my fields, so I could clearly see the difference after sowing. Where there were bunds, the sorghum harvest is noticeably better.
Where stone is available, this is a simple, replicable conservation technique, which has led to more consistent and more reliable harvests. But provision of adequate numbers of appropriate tools has proved a constraint. For instance, the villagers of Ribu want donkey carts to transport stones, so they don't have to wait for the lorry. This issue is being tackled by the programme. Stone bunds alone do not answer the problem of soil fertility, and chemical fertilizers are expensive. So the programme has shown the farmers how to prepare improved compost pits. They're filled with plant waste, household rubbish, and manure. A locally produced fertilizer, BURKINA phosphate, is supplied to the farmers to enrich the compost. The pit is watered to keep it moist. 6 months later, the compost has matured, and it's then ready to be taken to the fields. Handfuls of compost are placed in planting pits prepared for sorghum and millet. This makes the most efficient use of the limited amount of compost available. Crops receive a fertility boost from the compost. This is appreciated by Rasmata Sankara.
Sorghum planted in composted ground gives a better yield than in other fields.
1,500 compost pits have been dug with the programme's help. Each pit provides enough compost for about a hectare of land. Through the combination of simple soil conservation techniques and enhanced soil fertility, the programme is helping to reverse the trend of land degradation on the central plateau of Burkina Faso. The challenge now is to spread the message more widely. Lesotho in southern Africa is known as the Kingdom in the Sky, with its rugged mountain ranges and spectacular scenery. But Lesotho is a landlocked country with a weak agricultural base. The climate, landscape and crops are very different from the West African Sahel, but many of the basic problems are similar. Some of the difficulties faced by farmers are explained by Letla Musenene of the Soil and Water Conservation and Agroforestry Programme, SWACAP.
In Lesotho, when you practice agriculture, you also run into many difficulties regarding the climate, the soil, the inputs, and these are the factors that will affect a harvest in the end.
Soil erosion is particularly severe in Lesotho. Some of the continent's most dramatic gully formations are to be found here. The conventional soil conservation approach in Lesotho has been to construct terrace and waterway systems, often with heavy machinery. But in the past, local farmers were not consulted, and the terrace banks were often viewed as wasted space. Broken terraces are often left unrepaired, especially on communal land. The result is renewed erosion, sometimes more serious than it was in the first place. One of SWACAP's agroforestry techniques helps to address this problem. It's based on the local priority of growing fruits. Apples, pears and peaches thrive in Lesotho's climate. So farmers are shown how they can maintain terrace banks and simultaneously make them productive by growing fruit trees. Another way of improving terraces is by planting banana grass along the banks. This technique is based on the successful experience of a nearby German finance project. Banana grass helps to stabilize the structures, and as Tiki Matata has found, it can be cut to provide valuable fodder for livestock. Tiki has also taken advantage of another of SWACAP's trial packages, the Machobane system. This is a system of conservation farming, which aims to protect the soil with a dense plant cover.
I
really feel motivated to be part of these trials. At the moment, I have a good crop of potatoes. My farming skills have really been improved.
The system is the brainchild of a Lesotho elder, James Jacob Machobane, who's held a lifelong ambition to abolish hunger from his home country. Machobane now works in cooperation with SWACAP. The system is being improved to provide better conservation, combined with minimizing risk. A mixture of crops are grown, and relay planting spreads the harvest throughout the year. Potatoes, beans, maize, sorghum and pumpkins are intercropped.
They all planted with a view that should drought, should hailstorm, should early frost, should too much rain and pests attack a crop that year, we are still 100% sure that we are going to harvest by the end of the year.
A particularly interesting aspect of the Machobane system is the way young people are encouraged to participate. They help in the training of farmers and learn to respect agriculture themselves. The SWACAP program has a mandate to identify suitable methods of conservation farming, such as the Machobane system. The emphasis is being moved away from the construction of soil conservation works like terrace banks towards vegetative systems of land husbandry. Improved plant growth means increased protection of the soil from the erosive impact of raindrops. The result is better harvests and better conservation. More than a quarter of all households in Lesotho are headed by women. These form one of SWACAP's main target communities. At Rakoloi, a group of women farmers have come together to take part in simple on-farm trials. This is adaptive research, involving farmers in the development of new techniques. An extension worker demonstrates the use of an adapted ox-drawn plough. The implement is converted into a ripper by replacing the plough body with a single tine. It's used to rip the earth. This increases the infiltration of rain into the ground and makes moisture directly available to the plant roots. Matabisu Mpasa is the leader of Rakoloi Women's Group. She tested the ripper at planting time.
I'm very pleased with the area where I opened rip lines and used both manure and fertilizer. You can see here where I use this system. Water goes down to the roots and the maize looks very good.
At least once a season, a field walk takes place, and farmers are encouraged to discuss the trials with program staff. Lesotho's poorest farmers are being assisted by the reorganization of the National Extension Service around a network of resource centers.
This new system in Lesotho is called the client demand because it is based on the needs of the farmer, as opposed to the earlier approach where the extension agents went out and told the farmers what to do.
The objective is to make the service more user-friendly, both to individual farmers and to groups. The system is at an early stage, and modifications are being made to the original blueprint to overcome problems with staffing and staff mobility. SWACAP is learning the importance of flexibility. A more sensitive approach is being developed to the management of soil and water conservation in Lesotho.